Hey guys, Sarak here, and today I'm going to bring you another budget deck. Today it's Crusadia. Now this isn't Crusadia Link or Crusadia Dragon Link, this is pure Crusadia Kaiju OTK. So, let's get into the deck profile, but before I do, I just want to say, if you haven't checked out my most recent full-length video, where I talk about side decking, please go check that out, because it's got very few views for most of my videos at this point, and I spent ages working on it and would love more people to watch it. But let's get into the profile. We have 3 Crusadia Maximus. This is special summon this card from a hand. All Crusadias, the main deck monsters, can special summon themselves from their hand in defense position to the zone a link monster points to. And they can only do that once per turn. And then they all have another effect. Maximus allows you to double any battle damage a Crusadia link monster inflicts. This is a pure going second one-punch OTK deck. It's like the Link version of Grenmarju. Then we have Crusadia Draco. Draco has the special summon effect, and if it's special summoned to the zone a link monster points to, you can target a Crusadia card in your graveyard, except itself, and then add it back to your hand, so he gives you your recursion. 3 copies of Crusadia Leonis. Leonis, again, Crusadia effect, and you can target one link monster you control. If it attacks defense position monster this turn, inflict piercing battle damage. Allows you to get over big beefy walls that your opponent have set up. Three Crusadia Arborea. Arborea lets you if a Crusadia monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card instead from the field or graveyard. Two copies of Crusadia Reclusia. Crusadia Reclusia is a bit different. It doesn't have a buffing or protection effect. It destroys a card and one of the cards you control. And it can target itself. So it can be helpful for breaking boards, but has one of the lowest attack values of all the main deck Crusadias, and probably the least useful effect to go with that, so that's why we only run 2 of it. We run 1 World Legacy World Crown. This is a Crusadia in all but name. You can special summon this hand to a zone a link monster points to. When a monster on the field that was special summoned from the extra deck activates its effect, tribute this card, negate the activation, and destroy it. Absolutely great way of interrupting your opponent's plays. It's 2000 attack for your Equimax and so on. And if this card is, if this normal summon set card is tributed, you're never normal summoning or setting this card, so ignore that part of the effect. One Pancratops, we're going second. Why wouldn't we play the best going second card in the game? It's a free special summon. It's 2600 attack, which obviously goes onto your Equimax or whatever, and it pops a card on the field at a quick effect. Fantastic card. 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. Again, this is more link fodder, because we're a link-based deck. We have lots of link zones that we can summon this card to. It's 2000 attack for your Equimax, and it also allows us access to Abyss Dweller going first. We don't want to be made to go first, but this is one of the few cards we have that allows us to do something at least going first. We then have our Kaiju package. We have 3 Gamciel and 2 Jizukiru. Now, these could be other Kaijus. These are the lowest and highest attack Kaijus, respectively, and also some of the cheapest ones. Some of the other Kaijus have got increasingly more expensive recently, and that is actually making it much harder to build budget decks relying on Kaijus as your main form of removal. Remember, Equimax or any of the Crusadians that point towards your opponent's side of the field will also steal attack from them, so you can summon, as long as you summon your Kaijus in the correct zones, you can abuse their attack values as well. Finally, we have 1 Codebreaker 0 Day. This is for the Codebreaker combo. We're usually only doing that if we're going first, and it allows us to make Avramax. Three Pot of Desires for draw power. You know what this card does. We don't run any hand traps in this deck. We're relying solely on kaijus and other powerful board-breaking cards to get essentially just ram through our opponent's board. We then have our Crusadia spells and traps. We have one Testament. We don't run very many copies of the Crusadia spells and traps because most of them are searchable. Testament allows you to either make it so your opponent can't respond to your Crusadia effects, or you can target a Crusadia Link monster. If it destroys an opponent's monster, you get to draw cards equal to your monster's Link rating. So you can draw 3 or 4 cards depending on if you target Equimax or Avramax. We have ways of searching this, so we don't need to worry about playing more than one. 2 Crusadia Power. Power is insane. Target a Crusadia monster you control. That monster is unaffected by card effects except its own, and allows you to stop your opponent from doing a lot to your big beefy Link monsters. Very important card. Again, searchable, we don't need to run 3. And 1 Crusadia Revival, the field spell. All Link monsters, Crusadia Link monsters gain 500. You can target a Crusadia Link monster you control this turn. It can attack all monsters once each. Other monsters you control cannot attack. This is one way we have of pushing through huge amounts of damage, or just at least clearing our opponent's board so they can't rebuild. Again, this deck is a battering ram. There is no subtlety or guile with this deck at all. We smash. 2 copies of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Board wipes that give you a 3300 attack body and your opponent a 2200 attack body are pretty damn good. And it also allows you to search kaiju later in the game if the game goes any longer. One Mind Control. We're going second deck. It's an absolute must negate for most decks because, well, you're going to just steal their card otherwise. So they have to do something about it, and it allows us to get our other more important effects through. And also we can steal monsters with high attack with this card that we can then put onto our Equimax. 1 Monster Reborn, again, bringing back Maximus, whatever, that's stuck in the graveyard to double our Equimax's damage output is pretty damn good. 1 Called by the Grave. This deck hates Ash Blossom, so we need to play it. Hope you see it. World Legacy Succession. A second copy of Monster Reborn is pretty good. There's not much more to say about that. Just got to target a zone a Link monster points to. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. This is, again, for those back row decks, for Tri-Brigade and so on. Make them use their Shrike early if they need to, or force negations. Again, very, very strong card. Your opponent either loses all their back row or they're forced to use a negation on it that's now not being used on your Crusadia effects. And finally, 1 Red Reboot. This deck hates being Imperial Ordered, hates being Solemned, hates being hit by all of those nasty, horrible counter traps, and Red Reboot is probably the best counter trap in the game. So, that's the main deck. On to the extra deck. We start with 2 copies of Crusadia Equimax. This is our big Chungus, who is going to be ending all our games. Gains attack equal to the combined original attack of all monsters this card points to. Monsters this card points to cannot attack. Once per turn, tribute 1 Crusadia or World Legacy monster this card points to. Target 1 face-up card your opponent controls. Negate its effects until the end of this turn. It's really, really good, this card. It negates card effects, it doesn't negate monster effects, and it ends the game for you. It's your win condition and one of the things you can sit on if you're made to go first. Three Crusadia Magius. This is your searcher of the deck. It's a Link 1, absolutely amazing. Has the standard Link effect of gaining attack. But then you can immediately search another Crusadia monster, which you can then special summon and continue your Link climbing. Two Crusadia Regulex. This is your Link 2. Two effect monsters, including Crusadia monster, gains the attack. And this card searches your spells and traps. So this is how you get your field spell, your power, your testament, if you need them. One Draco Masters of the Tenute. This is in here because it has 3 downward pointing arrows, which is important for your Codebreaker plays. That's the only other reason it's in here. It's just a generic, relatively generic Link 3 with downward pointing arrows. One Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax. This is Big Chungus number 2. This is who you sit on if you're going first, and how is notoriously difficult to out without things like kaijus. Be careful because Dragoon exists, this card is now much easier to out than it used to be able to. But it's huge, it stops your opponents attacking your other monsters, it can't be targeted, and if it goes to the graveyard, you get to shuffle a card on the field into the deck. That does not target. One Topologic Trisbane. You can special summon to Link zones really, really easily, and Spell and Trap Destruction is really good when you're going second, as well as helping you win in time. One Nightmare Unicorn. Getting rid of any card on the field that's problematic is also pretty good, as it happens. Would recommend. And we also have ways of co-linking this card, if we need to, which also lets us draw stuff. If it stays on the field. We then have our 2 Codebreakers. We have Virus Swordsman and Virus Berserker. Swordsman requires 2 effect monsters, then if it's co-linked, so you need a downward pointing arrow, you can special summon 1/0 day from your hand, deck or graveyard to any zone a link monster points to, which is why you need the downward pointing arrows on something like Draco Berserker. Then you can immediately link them off into Virus Berserker, which then lets you special summon 2 Codebreaker monsters from your hand or graveyard to any zones a link monster points to. Again, why you want downward pointing arrows, and that allows you to make Avramax. One Link Spider. Crusadias require effect monsters to be used, so if your opponent puts an Nibiru token, you might be able to use it to give your Equimax 11,000 attack, but you might also need to link it off into Link Spider so you can actually start your Link climbing plays. And finally, one Abyss Dweller to make the Parallel Exceed going first. So, that is the deck. Very quick deck, very cheap to make, and just if you like OTKing people out of absolutely nowhere, then you might enjoy this deck. So, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon.